congratulations on this amazing admit. Three full scholarship, 100% scholarship holders.
So all my seniors at SR told me that you should join Top One. There was no other competitor that was there in the market that could be Top One. So I was very clear from the start that Top One is the one that I'm going to join. Because the course is very comprehensive. Like everything is covered. You get mocks, you get practice sessions.
So for me, my A to Z journey from right from my GMAT all the way till ISB. So like application process as well, test process as well. Everything has been covered by top 1%. So I think that one is already pretty exhaustive about it. I would have a different answer about this. I think top 1% gave me another level of clarity of why am I doing what am I doing.
Thank you so much, guys, all three of you, for giving me your time. Firstly, I hope you're glad that you're here. Congratulations on this amazing admit. Three full scholarship, 100% scholarship holders. I don't know what the cumulative value of your scholarships is going to be. That's pretty amazing, firstly. Congratulations. So one of you, Chaitanya, since you logged in first, you summarize. How is the feeling at home? Are you guys going to be joining ISB tomorrow? Am I right in
Tomorrow
saying?
morning, yes.
Yeah.
Wow. So maybe you guys are going to see each other tomorrow in orientation, and
Yes,
I
yes,
think
yes.
hopefully, have you guys
Yeah,
bumped into each other on some WhatsApp group or anything up to now, or is this your
Already,
first
yeah.
meeting?
yeah.
Awesome. So there you go. So firstly, congrats, Chaitanya. Summarize for me what's the feeling at home. You'll be leaving in a few hours to join ISP in the morning. Please tell me how is the feeling?
Well, yes, feeling is very mixed. Like everyone is happy that I got into ISB, obviously with a full scholarship. So that was like a cherry on top. And obviously, like I'm going also. So for 4 years, I was apart for my UG. Then 2 years, I was apart for my job. So people are not that sad. I'll tell you. But yeah, just the fact that I'm going
Excellent.
again. That
Excellent. Excellent.
yeah.
And I want to ask you, Pranavi, your journey, I know very closely because I work with you on your applications as well. So
Yeah.
can you tell us, why you have chosen? I know you can tell, for future cohorts, I know you had many fabulous admits. What was it? INSEAD, HEC,
Yeah.
Yale. You can summarize it. What made you choose ISB? Please tell us. The ISB YL program, is this going to be the second cohort, I believe, or the third? Second,
Mhm.
I believe,
Second.
The
right?
second, yeah.
So, Pranavi, what made you choose ISB over these also amazing schools?
Yeah. Thanks, sir. And firstly, everyone in my family is a huge fan of yours. So my
Ah,
mom,
thank
as soon as I got to hear about like our scholarship, she was like, "You have to tell all three sir right away about it."
thank you so much.
So we all are big fans at home. I think for me, ISP stood out particularly because of the way the program was structured. All of these other programs, while extremely great and renowned, sort of gave me maybe like a fewer duration for the course or maybe fewer work opportunities. So finally, when I came across the wild program and the way in which it was organized and structured and the type of opportunities they provide to all of their students, it was a must go for me. So I think, yeah.
And I think all of us are going to be in unison in agreeing that I think, given the current macros, given the current geopolitical climate, I don't think, as an Indian passport holder, I don't think there is any better school in the world than ISB. I know all three of you guys. I know your profiles quite closely. I'm going to ask you more about that as we go along today. I am absolutely certain you guys are going to smash it out of the park. This time, 2 years down the line, you guys are going to graduate. I am absolutely certain that you're going to enter the upper echelons of whatever you want to do, whether it's in the corporate world, whether it's an entrepreneurial thing. And I will say right at the outset that please do stay in touch with us. All of us here at Top 1% are very invested in our students, whether it's myself, Sandeep. I know many of you have different facilitators, but you would have come across Richa at some point. We keep tabs on all our students. We are so happy when they report that they've got this fabulous job at, I don't know, an MBB or whatever, and earning all the big bang bucks. We are super happy for you. So, Arshita, I want to come to you now. I want to ask you how your journey has been. I want to take you, so for all of us, let's kind of rewind back. Can you please tell us when you started thinking about ISB? How was that process? What got you into GMAT? Was it ISB in particular, or just talk us through your journey, maybe from day one when this idea germinated?
Definitely. So I started preparing for GMAT right during the second year of my college. And I had actually applied to ISB and they had asked for a GMAT. So
Yes,
that's why I got started applying for it.
sure.
And then I didn't get into the YLP program that they had
Okay. All
at that
right.
time. But I saw that there is this new program of YL, so I applied, I reapplied, and hopefully I got this scholarship. So
Excellent, excellent. So I'll come to you a little later again to ask you what you did different in your applications. I want to go slowly, so we'll talk a little bit about your GMAT journeys first, and then we'll delve into your applications, your scholarships. So just to try to break this down as much as possible, and I'll give each of you a chance. So feel free to butt in, guys, if there is something. I've obviously tried to curate a list of questions to try to keep this as comprehensive. But if you feel you want to share something with future students, shout it out. We'd love to hear. So I'll keep this order going. So Chaitanya, why don't you tell us about your GMAT journey firstly? How was it for you? Were there any specific challenges, that concerns or something that initially troubled you? Talk us through that process.
Okay, so I was introduced to the idea of GMAT in fourth year around by Sandeep sir only. He came to my college for a seminar and took a whole session about why engineers, do all the questions wrong. He showed us some questions which looked so easy, and most of the hall at IIT Delhi solved them wrong. So that's when I was fascinated that, okay, so there are some things which we find easy, but still GMAT throws a curveball, right?
Mhm.
So that was one. Apart from that, he also showed a lot of tricks in RC and CR, especially you all must know that octave trick and all.
Mhm.
And before and after using those tricks, we could definitely see a huge change in our accuracy and speed, right? So I think that's how my GMAT journey started. And in fourth year, I took this course for top 1%, the self-paced course. And since you asked me challenges, so I was doing a full-time job parallelly. So regularity was pretty much a challenge for me. But then the what pushed me at the end to fill my GMAT is that my course was about to expire. So I just filled in my GMAT, and in the last 3 4 weeks I gave all in, and then I got a good score.
Excellent. Just a follow up on that. You said regularity was a challenge. This is a challenge faced by common many students. Maybe Pranavi, you and Arshita also can address this at some point. Any tips? What did you do? Were there any sort of conscious sort of steps you all took to ensure regularity? I know, some students say they had a morning ritual where they would wake up in the morning. Did you, any of you have something like this? I would love to hear. Chaitanya,
I'll
you
just
can,
quickly
yeah.
tell what I did personally. So after work, I just made sure to take just a half an hour to 1 hour break, and then continuously I studied for 2 to 3 hours daily. So I made that a ritual. So after work, I had to study. That was a non-negotiable for me in the last month of my GMAT preparation. So that's all
Excellent.
that worked for me.
So
Yeah.
you're a bit of a night owl, I think. You were studying little.
Yes. Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
And I think others are going to ask me in future, so I have to ask you what you got a little bruise in your something. What's
Yeah.
the secret there?
That's something called pyeonamic glaucoma. I don't even know how to pronounce this. So I just had a small surgery today.
Oh no. What?
Nothing serious, nothing serious. It doesn't even pain. So it just once it starts bleeding, it bleeds continuously. So
Oh.
I had to stop that. So they had a small
You,
surgery. That's
we
it.
all wish you a happy. I had to
Oh
ask
yeah.
it because I know
Thank you.
someone
Thank
in
you.
the future cohort would ask why didn't know. Okay, so I've asked you everything. All right, they
He
can
was studying
decide
for
whether
the
to keep
GMAT.
that or cut it out in their
All
editing.
three did this. He was studying for the GMAT continuously.
There you go. Excellent. Arshita, over to you. How was your GMAT journey? I want you to tell us if there were any specific sort of challenges, any specific part of the test which really troubled you more than others. Tell us some nuances before I get into maybe a couple of specifics about our techniques and strategies. Any sort of, for future students who are worried, who are in the same boat, what was your experience like?
So one challenge that I used to face is that I used to get very anxious while giving a mock. So every time I used to, practice, give a sectional test, I think somehow, that exam timer used to get on me and I used to feel very nervous. So the ritual that I had is, giving mocks every week,
Okay.
taking them very seriously, analyzing them. And that is something that worked for me as well. And
Excellent.
on the exam day, I wasn't nervous. So I
Excellent.
think, yeah.
Excellent. That's such a lovely tip. So you basically simulated the exam environment by taking weekly mocks. can I just quickly ask you here, what kind of mocks did you take just for future? I know students want specifics, so I'm going to start asking you specific things. How many mocks did you take, Arshita? What were they? We'd love to sort of hear from you.
Right. So I used to take, top 1% mocks that were uploaded on the portal, as well as some sectional tests that were there, and then the official GMAT mocks that were there. So all of these I used to take, and I think something that I wanted to add in my previous answer is that sometimes people end up thinking that they will start taking mocks after completing the whole course. However, I think it's important to just start right away, know your where you stand, get better at it. And I used to create an Excel sheet with all my scores, look at my
Excellent.
accuracy, and yeah,
That is
that's
so excellent. That is such a wonderful tip. Basically, start early with your mocks, maybe to analyze what your own problem areas are and keep a track of it. That is excellent. Now, I want to drill deep into each aspect. So, let's talk about specifics of the top 1% course, Chaitanya. What if there is, you mentioned Octave, for instance, tell future students what were some of the strategies or techniques that we taught you that really paid off for you? I would love to sort of hear about this.
Okay. So I think there were a couple of things with regards to the strategies, if you will. So first is definitely, as you mentioned, Octave. So when you see a question, you have a really long RC passage, and then there's an RC question, let's say. There are some words that you don't even know what they mean, right? And it will happen. It happened to me, and it will
Absolutely.
happen to a lot of us, right?
Yes.
So now, what Octave definitely taught me was to, eliminate some of those options, or let's say verify how to verify an option, how to eliminate an option, or how to check for extreme tones. So I think the moment we just learned these 3 4 tips, right, half of the options are easily eliminated. So the
Excellent.
other half is what you have to study about. That is the whole practice. So I
Excellent.
think your correctness just increases by 2x just by knowing these 3 4 tips. That's it. That was
Excellent.
first point.
Yes.
First point was Octave. Second point, which actually felt very powerful, and a lot of us don't realize that subconsciously, was, and I have mentioned this previously in a top 1% video,
Mm-hmm.
don't reread any passage,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
whenever we are reading an RC passage, a human tendency is that, okay, if I didn't understand the sentence, maybe I'll just revisit that later, right? But
Mm-hmm.
if we have the tendency, we won't study it properly, we won't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, it will be difficult, but as you practice throughout your GMAT journey, make it a habit to just try to read it in one go. In that case, you will definitely understand more of it rather than trying to read it again. So I
Excellent.
think these 2 points are really helpful for me.
And I think what I'll summarize also, Chaitanya, and hopefully all of you validate this conscious approach to understanding yourself. Would you agree that that is the ultimate differentiator between getting a high score or not? This is sometimes the students don't realize. A lot of students blindly practice hundreds and hundreds of passages, but I see they don't really evolve. They don't change the way that they are reading that passage, for instance, or they have. So it's great to hear, Chaitanya, that you mentioned things like don't keep rereading, try to analyze those specific aspects that are more important than the others. So this is excellent. All right, Arshita, I will come to you. Same question to you. What any specific aspect of the course, any particular material or chapter or anything that really has stood out for you, and you can, when you were doing the test, question came up and you had done something very similar. It will be great for students to hear such anecdotes.
I definitely agree with Chaitanya regarding Octave. So I had felt that, VA, like with Octave, VA became very objective. Like it's very subjective, to go through the options and read the passage, but Octave made it very objective, and that is something that I really liked about, the course. The second thing that I found very useful is, since Focus Edition was started right when I was appearing for the
Mhm.
GMAT,
Mhm.
so I did not have much idea about DI, but there were a lot of practice tests on the portal for DI, which I found very close to the main exam. So
Excellent.
that is something that I I felt what was like a different rate.
Excellent. And Arshita, did you use any other material, in your preparation, or was it just the top 1% material and the guidance that you followed?
Just top one.
Excellent. Chaitanya, same question to you. Did you refer to any other material or anything else?
So for most of my journey, I used top 1%. Just for the
Right.
last week, I bought their official GMAT mocks. That's it.
Sure. That, I mean, the official mocks are fairly sort of, I think essential. So that's great. A little bit more about the GMAT process. So I know, Arshita, you mentioned DI. DI troubles a lot of students. We hear more and more. So how was it for you, for both of you? Arshita, you can get started. Was DI something that troubled you a little bit? And, how was our guidance around that?
Yes, definitely. So, DI was just introduced by then, and I did not have any idea about it. And one particular thing about DI is that you don't like you need at least, I think, two, three answers to get the whole question right. So that is
Correct.
something that used to reduce my accuracy by a lot. And
Excellent.
it's just, I used to practice a lot, like do all the practice sessions that sir had. So that is something that worked for me.
And please validate for future students, that was more than sufficient. Would both of you
Yes,
agree that
definitely.
everything that was given to you was way more than sufficient for you to ace your GMAT? Yes,
Yes,
I'm
totally,
happy both
totally.
of you agree. Can Arshita, you also point out what was your accuracy like? Like in verbal, for instance, when you started, what was your accuracy like in those sheets that you were given, those exercises you had to do?
I think it was like pretty low around. I don't remember much, but I think it was around 40, around
Sure,
40%.
sure.
So,
And
but
and
it got
Chaitanya,
increased.
Chaitanya, how was it for you?
Now she said 40%. I'm ashamed to say 35, 40%.
The reason I ask such questions is I think a lot of students get intimidated maybe initially when they get a low percentile, but you should hopefully validate now that you've done with the process, you've got your score, you've got your admit with the highest possible scholarship. I hope me asking you these questions are more than anything validating, pacifying for future students who have to also walk this same path. Yes?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. I want to now ask you a little bit questions about your, application journey. So I'll start with you, Arshita, here because you mentioned that, the YLP application didn't work for you, and then you did the YL and you got in with the highest possible scholarship. So I want you to address students and say what changed. Like, what do you think was that factor which changed your fortune?
So the factor that, changed my fortune, I think, was that I used to go back, think about myself, introspect, what can I write more. I started with my applications, I think, 2 months before the deadline. So it gave me enough time to, just like rewrite the answers, get opinions from a lot of people, alums, ISB alums. So redrafting it, going back until I was sure that the story makes sense. So that is something that worked
Excellent.
for me.
So introspecting, maybe being a lot
Yeah.
more comprehensive with what you are pitching, having it backed up. And did you feel that helped you this time when you went for an interview? Maybe you were a lot more prepared, you were able to connect those dots better.
Yes, yes. So the interview revolves around your, essays and your overall application itself. And introspecting, I was able to answer everything very, very without any hesitation. So that is something that worked.
Excellent, excellent. All right. So I'll come to you now, Chaitanya. Chaitanya, you and I have been interacting, I think, for a little bit more than a year. Am I right in saying it was about this time
Yes.
last year, maybe a little early April, May is when you had reached
April
out?
or May. Yeah, that's
I
right.
know I was traveling back then and I was talking to you, and it's such a joy now that you've made it to the absolute. I don't think it gets better than this, right? 100%
Oh my God.
scholarship. I don't think you can do better than this. So amazing. Please talk to us about how your journey was. I know I worked with you closely. Hopefully you can validate the kind of role that I played in your journey as well. But tell us about that whole experience of the admissions.
So, yeah, as you mentioned, around April or May, I reached out to you and I was figuring out whether or not should I apply to this YL program or not. And then you explained me what exactly is this, so I just gave it a shot. And so what happened was before we even started our application process, you gave me some tasks, some assignments, right? That research about people from your profile and what are they doing post their MBA, post ISB. So I had a hard time researching at least 25, 30 people. I had to buy LinkedIn Premium for your homework. So I did that. I did all that. So now, even though it sounds funny, but it actually gave me a better idea of how, like, what can someone from a profile like me do after their MBA.
Excellent.
So for some component, it gave me a better clarity. First step. Second thing, you gave me some essays to write, some mock essays or something. I think
Sure.
you asked me my strengths, weaknesses,
Sure.
long-term,
Like a
short-term goals, all that.
questionnaire that I give out to
Yes, yes,
students.
yes. So
Yes.
it was already an exhaustive questionnaire, not even an ISB questionnaire. It was your own made questionnaire.
Sure.
Now, filling that itself gave me, like, made me retrospect that why am I applying for this MBA? Why do I need this MBA? And all of those questions. Now, by the time we started the ISB application, I already had 50% more clarity about why am I doing this in the first, right? Now, when we started, I think I remember the first set of three essay drafts that I told you were all over the place. Nothing was, no story was there. It was again, it was very, it was not coherent at all. But then you sat me down and you told me to approach it one by one. So we first worked on first essay, then second essay, then third essay, one by one, very sequentially. What that ensured was that a good story is it, right? And you never asked me to that you should write this or you should write that. All of the thoughts were mine, but then they were mine because you already made me prepared because of that questionnaire, right?
Excellent.
Also, whenever I wrote something, let's say there's a 300 word essay, I would write around 400 words so that I can remove it later.
Sure.
So one thing that was really that really stood out for me was that treat all of that essay like a real estate space, right? Now, what I mean by that is, like, if ISB says you have to write 250 words, then all of those 250 words should be your own anecdotes, should be your own values, what you believe in, what are you targeting. They should not be fluff sentences like I aim to create a big impact to this world or something like that. I mean, anyone can write that, right? It should
Sure.
be very personal and it should be treated like your own, treated like money,
Mm-hmm.
simply. So that was one thing that really stood out. So I think after all the essays and, making my CV, all my achievements, awards, one whole story automatically was there. Like, we didn't have to think about it consciously. So I think that was a very beautiful part of my application.
Excellent, Chaitanya. I don't think I would have been able to summarize how beautifully you summarized the entire process. This is something that, like a broken record, that I've told my students for the last, what, 15. This is going to be my 16th year of
Okay.
helping students. And I always tell them, Arshita, although I didn't directly work with you on your applications, I hope you will agree, validate what I'm saying here as well, that the more sort of well-rounded, introspected, comprehensively thought out your applications are, the more coherent that story. I hope you will agree. Then the interview process becomes extremely straightforward. I'm going to ask you, maybe I'll ask you next about your interview experience. Generally, if it's well thought out, it can be conversational. Yes, of course, they will grill you a little bit on aspects. That is something that ISB always does. But maybe Ashita, you can again take this first. How was your interview experience? I am guessing and hoping that because you had thought out everything very clearly, that it was very easy for you to maybe answer whatever cross questioning they were doing.
Yes, so my interview lasted around, I think, 40 to 50 minutes. So it was a long interview. And the interview right off from the starting was around, my essays and my profile itself. So asking around, I did some professional certification. So I did that. What made me, decide whether I want to do an MBA or not? What are my future goals? Then, some of the leadership or challenges that I faced, questions around that, questions around my work ex. So everything was covered pretty much that I had, earlier um,
Excellent.
that I had done. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Excellent. Achaitane, to you, the same question. How was your interview experience? All that introspection you had done, the questionnaire we had filled in, hopefully all that became your greatest ally. But please tell us, validate that.
So I think we already did a mock interview before my actual interview. So I
Yes.
think that thing pretty much calmed me down before my actual interview. So when I walked in, and Alam was walking in with me. So we were already, I think the interview already started. We were already conversing, hi, how are you, and all that. So I
Excellent.
think that calmed me down. Apart from the interview that you already took, so I was kind of prepared for what can they ask me. So they mostly asked me about my job experience, like how does a day at my work look like, or let's say, so my most of my profile was about AI and data science. So they started drilling on that you are joining a B school, AI will take your job. What will you do? So they started. So the moment I answered something, they added another constraint. Then I answered, they added another constraint. So it was kind of a stress test. But then
Sure.
the amount of clarity that I had till then made me answer all of that. So
Excellent.
I never stuttered at any point during my interview. So I think that worked out really well for me. The clarity of why are you doing an MBA, why ISB, and I don't know, it's similar questions like why not other questions, why not other colleges or all the equivalent standard questions that are there. The clarity of each of them made me pretty much confident in the interview.
Excellent. And again, to reiterate, guys, this is to the others who might be listening to this in the future and to both of you as well. As you step out, as you do placement interviews, I think these tenets, these lessons will remain, guys. If you can carry the same level of clarity, this clarity will then sort of filter towards your confidence. That's what your future recruiter also wants to see in you. So keep this in mind. This will definitely help you. I want to ask you a last couple of things. I want to ask you about your scholarship. So, Chaitanya, I'll ask you this first. What do you think was the reason that got you this bombastic, amazing, fantabulous 100% scholarship? What was that? If you had to pinpoint and maybe say one or two things that went for you, what would that be?
So I think so before answering this question, I'll just set the context. So ISB looks for your grades also, 12th grades, UG grades, your GMAT, right? Your CV, your essays, your LORs, and I think correct me if I'm wrong, if anything is missing, right?
I
So
mean,
there are
maybe your achievements in the online application
awards and
form.
achievements. So
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. But broadly, you're right. Yes, you've covered
Yes.
everything.
So there
Yes.
are 7 to 8 components, right?
Correct.
Now, most people think that scholarships are just about having a 999 profile, at 12th UG and GMAT, something like that. So one of those things can get you an admit, but you have to excel in both those things to get a scholarship. So I think
Excellent.
that is my point here. My profile was all good. I think there was no problem in that. But the essays, the CV, having a coherent story, having that clarity, as I mentioned before, that was my X factor, which got me the full
Excellent.
scholarship.
Excellent. Arshita, please tell us. I mean, one thing I will just summarize, and these guys, this is very important. This is for the listeners again in the future. Absolutely, I agree with Chaitanya. For me, whether you want that top 1% success, whether it's getting that big bang scholarship, and even before that, getting your admit, the way I have always told my students, the way I read files is kind of the way the admission committee adcom read the file, in that they play devil's advocate. They want to see whether you're ticking all the boxes. If there is even one part which is maybe falling short, that could go against you, because this is a competitive process, guys. If you look at the world's top schools which have 5%, 10%, maybe 1% acceptance rate, it means for every 100 people applying, one is getting in. So those other 99 are not incompetent or lack, or there is nothing lacking. It's just that you have to ensure that everything is. But so great to hear that you felt every aspect of your application was up to the mark. Arshita, same question to you. If you had to put your finger and tell us what worked for you, what got you that Big Bang scholarship, what would you say?
I agree with Chaitanya. It's like that you have to tick all the boxes, but ultimately you should have clarity. Your story should make sense. You should know why you want to do an MBA, why are you coming to ISB, and what are your future goals. So that really makes a difference. And in fact, I got my scholarship results right before my birthday, so the night before
Oh,
my birthday. So it was
fantastic.
a pretty good birthday gift
This
this
gift
time.
is something you will never forget, I think, all your life.
Yeah.
This is fantastic. Okay, guys, one last question before we wrap up. So, for future students, for future cohorts, still thinking, should I join top 1%, maybe considering other test prep companies, looking at other material, what would your advice be? Why should they take top 1%? What stood out for you? We obviously sell our way of it, but you are our student, you have been our customers. We never treat you like customers. We always see you as one of our own family, who's got in. We feel so proud about it. That's why even we do such chats. Arshita, I'll give it to you first. If you had to maybe mentor such a student who's a little skeptical, maybe not sure if he or she should join, what would your answer be?
So all my seniors at SR told me that you should join top one. There was no other competitor that was there in the market that could be top one. So I was very clear from the start that top one is the one that I'm going to join. Because the course is very comprehensive. Like everything is covered. You get mocks, you get practice sessions, you have videos. So everything from head to bottom is covered. So I think that is what GMAT also looks for when you're appearing for the test. And yeah,
Excellent. That is so short and sweet. Basically, don't overthink. Arshita just went,
yeah.
she listened to her seniors, and look how well it has paid off. Amazing. I love that answer. Chaitanya, same question to you, man. To a future student, why should they join top 1%?
I think, so what Arshita shared pretty much covered the GMAT part. So for me, my A to Z journey from my GMAT all the way till ISB. So like application process as well, test process as well. Everything has been covered by top 1%. So I think that one is already pretty exhaustive about it. I would have a different answer about this. I think top 1% gave me another level of clarity of why am I doing what am I doing. And I'm not saying this from an MBA perspective, from an ISB perspective. Working with top 1%, looking at Sandeep sir's videos, he tells about how Harvard case studies work or know the world sessions. I think it opens your worldview, broadens your perspective, and makes you a lot more ambitious. So I'm not, even though your courses are exceptional, I'm not even commenting on that. I think it makes you exhausted. It makes you a better person. I think that's what my answer would be here.
Amazing. On that note, I think that's a wonderful note to conclude. We truly believe in the top 1% philosophy, and Chaitanya, you've summarized it. You guys are all headed for top 1% success. I wish you the absolute best. Please do stay in touch. If you ever need any help or advice or anything in this path, we're always there for you. Thank you so much, guys. I'm going to end the
Thank you
call.
so
All the
much.
best tomorrow. Safe
Thank
journey
you.
Thank you.
and rock it at
And all the
ISB.
very best to both of you for a wonderful journey.